Hey, I'm Phillip Wheeler. Keith was very kind to invite me to interview for the Keith Andrew Network, his talk show. And I think that it's wonderful that he's providing an opportunity for people with disabilities to see that they can be something more than they are right now by pursuing something diligently.
Today on the Keith Andrew Network, it is season 9, episode 819. Today, we had a chance to sit down with professional actor Phillip Wheeler. That's right, the one and only Phillip Wheeler was on the Keith Andrew Network. Make sure to like and subscribe to the Keith Andrew Network. And as I always say to our fans, I'll catch you later. First thing I want to start off with is my catchphrase. What is the Keith Andrew Network? The whole point of the Keith Andrew Network is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities or disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you want to be. You should prove to them it can still amount to something. So hashtag break the labels. That being said, 26 minutes every time. Say anything you want, talk about anything you want. It's PG-13. Highest close-up is rated teen. So with that being said, the first question I want to ask you is, who do you admire and why?
Oh, that's always a hard one. Lots and lots and lots of people. Lately, it's really been people like Guy Pearce, because he's very transformational as an actor. Never really delivers a poor performance. People like Sam Rockwell, because they deliver performances that are really powerful, but also usually has a stronger intention behind the work that he does. I really like Christian Bale, again, because he does these really amazing transformational works. And, you know, in recent years, a lot of stuff that actually has like a greater meaning behind it as well, right? I think of things like, I'm trying to remember the name of that movie. It's like The Flower or something like that, where he plays the guy who goes to, I think it's China, and just kind of becomes like involved in that culture. And I think that that's something that we as a culture can do a lot more of, right? We can really immerse ourselves in things that are foreign to us, and as a result we get to understand the world around us better and ourselves and other people.
Oh, I hear you. So the next one I want to ask you, because you are a professional upcoming actor.
Mm-hmm.
So the same question as you mentioned, Christian Bale, who's fantastic as Batman, Robert Downey Jr., great as Iron Man. With all these great actors, was there anyone that you tried to mirror, try to copy the work that kind of influenced you to become a professional actor?
I wouldn't say that there's anyone that I'm trying to copy, but the people that really like inspire me are people like Sam Rockwell, Christian Bale. One person who's a little lesser known is Brad Dourif. He's the voice of Chucky. He was Grima Wormtongue in Lord of the Rings. He was in the Alien movies, or I think it was just Alien Resurrection, the fourth one. Because he's a smaller guy. He puts out that kind of creepy vibe, but he does a lot of like science fiction, fantasy, horror, and those are very much genres that I'm really excited to be a part of. Those projects tend to offer some social critiques on what's going on in the world, a lot of social commentaries. And he really plays characters, and those characters always have something to say, and sometimes they're a little bit over the top. And so actors like that really make me want to do those kinds of roles, because you can bring a lot of humanity to a character who isn't a good guy, and as a reflection of what we can be as human beings. One of the main reasons I became an actor was to self-examine, get to know myself better, get to understand why people do the things that they do, and really kind of explore the human condition as a whole. And you can't do that just by being the nice guy all the time. You have to look at the darker side of things.
No, you have to look at from both sides. It's like a quarter has 25%. It's always going to work in your favor, and the other side of the 25 will work against you. So you always have to find that common middle.
It's true.
But the one thing I want to say is, are you going for the Lex Luthor look, or are you going for the Breaking Bad?
Well, I started balding when I was 16. And so I held onto my hair for probably way longer than I should have. And eventually I just realized that I look better when I shave my head. I feel better when I shave my head. And I get cast in the roles that I want to play when I shave my head. So Lex Luthor would certainly be a role that I would play. I've been talked to by people doing like fan films and things in the past to play roles like that. And I've got a monologue in a comic book that I've been kind of looking at. I haven't prepared it yet, but I've been considering sitting down and really kind of diving into the character of Lex Luthor and putting something on tape for people to see. I haven't decided whether I'm really going to follow through with it yet or not, though.
Well, if your heart's into it, you have to do what you need to do. But the question I'm going to ask you next is, what excited you? Well, it's kind of like a two-part. So what excited you to become a professional actor, and what's your excitement of the journey of being a professional actor?
Okay, so two-parter. So what excited me about becoming an actor in the first place, and what excites me now?
Yes.
Okay, so the big thing when I started acting was getting to play people who were outside of me, people who were allowed to kind of freely express their emotions. I grew up in a very conservative town, and as a result, people don't want men to express their feelings. And so it really provided me an opportunity and an outlet to express myself where I hadn't found it otherwise. And then I started to slowly fall in love with the craft of acting. The first role that I played that really made me realize I wanted to be an actor was Athos in Three Musketeers. And I was so upset when I didn't get cast as the lead, D'Artagnan. But then I realized through the process that I was a lot more like Athos, and Athos had a lot more to offer me as a performer than D'Artagnan ever would have. I wasn't really excited to play the ingenue after that. Not to mention I was never really that type. And then I played Creon from Antigone really soon right after that. So I was playing the good guy who's, trying to make the world a better place. And then all of a sudden I'm playing the bad guy who's trying to kind of create the world in his own image. And so I played a really action heavy role. And then I paralleled that with a really dialogue heavy role. There's a 45-minute scene in that show where it's just Antigone and Creon talking philosophy, basically, and trying to coerce each other to go to one side or the other. And so after doing that, I really realized the depth of what acting had to offer, right? You can explore, different skill sets and things, and then you can explore the dialogue and the philosophy and the ideology of these characters. And as a result, you get to explore the human condition. You get to know more about yourself. You get to know more about what drives people to do the things that they do. Now, as an actor now, I had a really wonderful conversation with Jamie Cromwell of Babe fame at a Q&A when I was in Los Angeles. And he talked about the responsibility of an actor to put things into the world that will be emblematic of the change that we want to see in the world, or is a parable or a warning of what we could become if we don't change our ways. And I take that pretty seriously these days. Most of the stuff that I'm working on developing for myself, my own content, is geared around some sort of a social commentary. about the state of affairs in the world and what we could potentially become if we're not careful. And also, in some cases, exploring the idea of what it might look like if we went the other direction and we're a little bit more optimistic about things.
It's true. It's always, it's always good to look on the bright side and be optimistic about everything. Because, I'm not saying all rainbows and all that. You don't want to have your heads in the cloud. But it's always good to look at the positive than the negative.
Absolutely. My favorite TV show of all time is Star Trek: The Next Generation, because it's one of the only sci-fi shows out there that has an optimistic view of what the future could become.
That was a great TV show. For me, my favorite cartoon is Dragon Ball.
I've watched some of that. That show moved a little slowly for me, and it's so long. It was a little hard for me to get drawn into it. When I was younger, when I was a teenager, I watched a lot of it, but I have not watched all of it in any stretch of the imagination. Although I did like the character of Piccolo a lot.
Well, I would recommend watching Super. Some more fast-paced. That's the thing I hated about watching on TV, because there was more commercials than TV and TV time, and the more you sit there and it goes by so fast. It's like, okay, to make it fast-paced because people don't have that long of attention span. But Super is actually really good. I would recommend that.
All right, I'll have to check it out.
But the one thing I want to ask you before we take a commercial break is one of my subjects. Social media. Can social media make you or break you with everything that you accomplish in your life and your career? Do you give thanks to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn? Do you think that these websites have given you opportunity? Or you look at the other hand of social media, that if you say something stupid, if you accidentally give your opinion, it can destroy anything that you're working on. So how's that relate to you?
That's a really loaded question. I think that a lot of the time, if people are expressing views that are negative and are derogatory and are hateful, they pay the price for that. And they probably should have kept that off of social media. Konstantin Stanislavski, who is kind of the father of the modern method acting, wrote An Actor Prepares, wrote another book, which is part 2 to that, called The Building the Character. And at the very end, there's this very small chapter about being an actor and having to be diplomatic and keeping yourself a little bit out of the public eye. And I think that that's really hard to do today, because we have to really kind of regulate what we say, what we do, and be a personality, right? We have a responsibility as people who are moving into the public eye or already in the public eye to kind of show people the way. And we have such a divided country right now, and so many social issues in the United States specifically, that people are kind of finding themselves out on these islands of what they think is true or what they think is right. And social media has a way of twisting things sometimes. And so as a tool to further our beliefs, because I am an activist as well. I've done work with the Southern Poverty Law Center to fight back against hate groups. I do stuff with the ACLU because I believe in what they're doing. And I'm pretty outspoken about those things. And I don't know if I want to work with people who don't share those beliefs to some degree. If somebody is out there telling me that people don't belong here or they don't belong, deserve to live because of something that they can't control about themselves, I'm not really interested in those people. But as a tool, as an actor to build your career, social media has become kind of an essential tool. And I'm still sorting out how best to use certain platforms like Instagram. But in the past, Facebook has proved to be a really great place to network and get work with independent film companies and people who are making smaller independent films many of which have gone on to win awards at film festivals and things. I'm in three films right now that are on the festival circuit. One is called All Sorts, and I got that audition from Facebook. It was a feature film. I got paid to be there. You know, I did another film called Swipe, which is a very interesting, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's about a dating app and this girl going on all these dates with all of these very bizarre people. And I got that one through my agent, but social media has played a big role in making that film visible. And then I'm also in a film called Sundown Trail, which is kind of a social commentary science fiction film. And I got that one through my agent as well, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Now we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, I'm going to promote a couple of my sponsors. Well, not really sponsors, just a couple of things I like. And then I'm going to ask you about disabilities when we come back.
Great.
June 10th. It's a good thing you're here because this is one of the things I wanted to promote. It's June 10th at 5 o'clock. It's going to be my 8-year anniversary. Love to have you part of that episode if you're interested. And the other thing I want to promote is HB Gibson, home of the X Zone. If you're into interviews and all great things of entertainment, check out HB Gibson, home of the X Zone. Also, if you're into fitness, eating healthy, drinking healthy, definitely check out Life of a Fighter. And tonight, on Friday, 5 o'clock, almost at 5 o'clock. It's funny, 5 o'clock, Fox, kind of like the same thing. But tonight, on Fox 5, it's WWE SmackDown at 8 o'clock. I think it's 7 Pacific. I'm not really sure if you're on the West Coast, but definitely check your TV guide for SmackDown tonight. Also, like and subscribe to the Keith Andrew Network. We have hundreds of great videos from the Human Pyramid Challenge, from the Dumbo Challenge, from Dragon Ball, from professional wrestling, stand-up comedians. We have so much more coming to the Keith Andrew Network. Make sure to like and subscribe. But the next question I want to ask you is about disabilities. With everything that you accomplished in your career, have you worked, besides me, obviously, have you worked with people with disabilities? And are you willing to work with people with disabilities?
Absolutely. I have worked with a number of people with disabilities. Most of the time, they're just as capable as anybody else. I did a wonderful workshop with David Zimmerman out of Los Angeles and Danny Woodburn. And it was a great opportunity to work with actors who were deaf, people who were in wheelchairs, people who had cerebral palsy. And all of those actors brought so much to these scenes because acting is so much about tapping into your own reality and bringing something to these roles that nobody else can bring. And a lot of actors with disabilities are in a unique position to do that because they have a lot of stuff going on, and that translates really well to the camera if you're honest, right? So much about acting is telling the truth, being honest about what you're doing and trying to be the character rather than pretend to be the character, right? And so I think actors who have disabilities are largely underserved in the entertainment industry right now because they deserve to be playing a lot more of these roles. And too often, actors who are able-bodied are given those roles as a challenge rather than giving them to somebody who can really breathe life into those characters in a way that no able-bodied actor could. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
Well, for me personally, I think they should give people, if you're casting someone like who's in a wheelchair, don't be an ass and say, let's take the shortcut and say he's and that's the biggest thing is anyone who's a household name, Kristen Bell, Robert Downey Jr., Tom Selleck, Tom Cruise, just because they have big names. And of course, for me, if you remember, Robert Downey Jr. did in the movie The Judge, depressing movie. But if you're a fan of Robert Downey Jr., you're just going to say, he's in it, I want to go see it. But it's easy to say, hey, if you want this role, pretend, miss an arm, a leg, or be in a wheelchair. But if you really want it to be authentic, if you want it to be real, then give it to the people that has the issues. For an example, Breaking Bad, RJ. People thought it was some guy pretending to have the cerebral palsies, but they actually gave it to someone who had disabilities. Recently, in one of the best movies that I've seen recently, King Kong. King Kong, they had the deaf girl in it. Fancy was great in it. And of course, she didn't have a lot of acting ability, but she played her part perfectly. So it isn't about you want to be detail oriented or you want picture perfect quality. It's about representing certain people. It's about, hey, I know this guy is a great actor, but I'll give you an example I'm talking about. For me, yes, I would love to have household names on my show. But the one thing I want people to remember about me is when I die, is he didn't know me for a hole in a wall. You're an example of this. You don't know me for a hole in a wall. But the one thing I remembered and I respect about Keith is he came to me, told me his story, and he gave me an opportunity. I like creating opportunities for people. I like giving people opportunities. When a wife knocks you down, you have to create your own opportunities to get back up and be on the same level as people, especially in the entertainment business. It's one of those things where it's who you know and how you know them. And it's kind of like a clique, if you want to think about it like that. It's kind of like a group of certain people. It's like, oh, I know this, so I already know that. So giving people an opportunity that you have completely no idea who the hell they are, yes, you're taking a chance, but maybe taking that chance will be beneficial and it will pay off in the long run, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's interesting because right now in the entertainment industry, we're at an interesting crux. We have all of the big blockbuster films, the King Kongs, those sorts of things. We have all of these network television shows that are still playing on TV. But most of the stuff that is really exciting is happening on these streaming platforms, right? Or on paid television, cable. So AMC is putting out some great content right now. But, Showtime, HBO, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, are really putting out amazing things. And we're seeing a huge influx of material. And in a lot of ways, it's creating a lot more opportunities for all kinds of people, all experience levels. Especially with a lot of these procedural television shows, your CSIs, your Law and Orders, your NCISs. Those shows are in like their 11th, 12th season sometimes. And so they need actors to come in and play these parts that they're writing. And so often, especially on medical dramas, those people do have disabilities. And they certainly could use actors who have disabilities for those roles very easily. And I think a lot of the time they do use people who have those conditions. And because of the prevalence of these streaming platforms, a lot of creators are having more freedom to make the films of the way that they want to make them. And that allows for more opportunity without executives getting involved and saying, no, we're going to do it like this with this person. They can actually find somebody who's really, really right for that role. And they take a lot of time and effort and energy to do that because they're not beholden to anyone. And I think that's one of the reasons that the independent film and the independent television industries tend to be so exciting. For actors specifically, because they get to do things in a way that they wouldn't have been allowed to do on a CBS show. You know, I love CBS shows. I love NBC shows, ABC, all of it. But the stuff that really, really draws me in tends to be the stuff that HBO is putting out because it doesn't censor itself. It really, they're striving to create some sense of a reality in these shows. And I think that it really makes a difference. I tend to like things that are a little bit darker, that are a little bit more R-rated, but those opportunities are existing in a way that they never have before. And people who really go for it make sure that they are solid in their craft. They're taking acting classes. They know how to approach a scene. They know how to breathe life into a character. You know, the people who are networking via social media, getting an agent so that those people can put them out there into the world. You know, the people who are, you know, taking care of themselves mentally, physically, vocally, really are going to be able to go places now. You were able to do all of those things before, but there is just such a wider market for it. And you're able to create opportunities in a way that you never were able to before.
Oh, absolutely. Now, wrapping up our talk show, we're going over to women now. Is one, actually, I can always add that part. Now we're wrapping up our talk show. And the last question I want to ask you real fast is how can people follow you on social media? Are you on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn?
I don't use LinkedIn. I hear that it's a great website for networking with people. I have a LinkedIn. I haven't been on that website in like 10 years, I think. But I am on Facebook. I have my fan page there. I'm also on Twitter and on Instagram.
Oh, perfect. Now, I do have a couple questions for you off the air. Wrapping up our interview, so I'm real honored and privileged having you as a guest, and I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road. And as I always say to our viewers, catch you later.